Welcome to Master the Sheet, and in this video we're going to show you how to use Google Sheets to create smart, scalable systems. And for what it's worth, I will be doing some more detailed presentations on how to master Google Sheet. But for now, I just want to share some of the high-level things, and I'll give you some insights into how you can use Google in your business. We're not going to cover it in this video, but one of my favorite things is to create systems and processes and training for my team and for my clients using a combination of Google Drive, Docs, and Sheet. So in this presentation, I'm going to show you some of the most basic things. And the very first thing you need to know is how to find Google Sheets. So option one, you can click on the Google app from any Chrome and you can find Sheets, or you can go to the link in this document, sheets.google.com. And what you will see when you go there is that you can create either a blank spreadsheet or you can use templates. And there are other templates you can use. I highly recommend you play around with the blank and with the templates because you'll learn some things just by playing with what they have. So there's some really cool things like scheduling, team roster, pros and cons. If you can think about it, if you use Excel, you can use Google Sheet. So basically, this is what a blank sheet looks like. And again, you can create a drop-down menu by typing in the @ symbol and drop-down. There's a lot of really cool features. So let me show you the main ones. So first and foremost, everything you do in Google Sheet is saved as you go. So you don't need to look for save. It'll help you create tables, things like that. But just like Docs, up here top left, you can name your spreadsheet and you can click on where My Drive to determine where you're going to save. You can star it so that you can find it in Google Drive easier later. You can move it somewhere or you can see the document status. But that's basically, it's a spreadsheet. And like Google or Excel, sorry, this is a workspace. You can call it whatever you're comfortable with. I call this a workspace or a spreadsheet. And then within the spreadsheet, we have individual tabs. Here, there's only one tab called Sheet 1. You can double click on it to rename it. You can drop down arrow to duplicate it. You can copy it. You can change color. You can protect it. Here you can see a list of all of your sheets. So if you had a whole bunch, you can see it there, or you can add a new sheet. So with add, you can see now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and here I can see all of the tabs. So that's as complicated as it gets. So depending on what you're doing, I use tabs. Basically, if I'm tracking a high-level project, I might have one tab for the top-level stages in the project, and then I might have a tab separate for each of the individual stages with all of the tasks. This video is about how to use Sheets, not about how to optimize it. So a couple of things, I'm going to just kind of keep this here and I'll pull it up. So actually, I'm going to do side by side just so we can see this. So usually you'll have a data row. So what I normally do is I'll have my data row. You can format it however you like. I definitely like to bold it. Now, what I find is really helpful is if you go to the view menu and freeze and select one row, two row, whatever. And you can do this with columns. So for example, I might do one row and I might do one column. And this way, if I scroll down, my headers stay at the top. And if I scroll to the right, the first name column stays there. And the cool thing is I can drag this. Maybe I want to keep first and last name. Maybe I've got a second row, third row. But basically, I can use that to really navigate with ease and keep things clear. So when I create things, I will use bold, I will use italics, and bold is just, again, you can either find it in this drop down or you can use Control B. So some of the formatting options, we've got bold, italic, we've got strike through, we can change text color and background color, and then we can add borders. I'm not going to get into merge cells, that's a little bit specific. And then you can horizontal align, so your options are left, centered, and right. And then you've got vertical align, which is top, middle, or bottom. And this is probably one most people don't know, is the word wrap. So you can either have it overflow. So if, for example, we have a long email address, it wraps over into the row next to it. So I'll just show you what this looks like. So we can overflow, or we can wrap it so it'll cut at the edge and come around, or we can clip. And what that does is it just shows what's visible. Your value doesn't change, but it does show what's visible. So let's give this a name. And this is just like Excel. You click on a cell, you can see the value in the formula bar. So most people would probably, so with your headings, you probably want to wrap text. Now you can also do text rotation, so you can change the direction of your text. I don't play with that as much as I probably should, but if you've got things you want to move around, you can sort of play around a little bit. And like I said, you can wrap or whatever. And when you wrap something, the height automatically adjusts so that everything shows. So as I go wider, it wraps less. Now, to adjust your column width, you just hover over, so you format and highlight, the column. So in this case, column C. And on the far right, you go to the corner until you can see the little slider bar changes. It's like an arrow pointing left and right. And so you can adjust it. And same for the height. You can adjust the height manually or as I did with automatic. So some of the most common formulas, I'm not going to teach you all of them, but for example, if I want to sum those three DEF, I type in the equal, and it's great because it suggests that for me. So I can automatically see that the sum of that is 6. So that's a great formula to know and have, because you can use it for rows, columns, what have you. Now, if I want to know the average, so I type in equals average, open bracket, and then I just click and hold as I highlight those. And then I close my bracket, and it tells me the average is 2. Now, conditional logic, this is where it gets really fun. I can set values. So basically with conditional logic, we're saying if, for example, C2 is greater than 100, it will give us a value of high or a value of low if it's not. So again, I'm not going to show you all of these values and formulas. VLOOKUP is one you really should look and learn. I will do a detailed one on that, but basically what it does with vertical lookup, which is VLOOKUP, and we have horizontal lookup, which is HLOOKUP. And basically, if we have a table of data values, we can find our current value in there. We can do some search. This is where we get really powerful results with both Excel and Sheets. And then concatenate. Let's say, for example, I want a cell with full name. Obviously, we can copy, but here we would concatenate. There we go. Bracket that, comma, that. Now, what this will do is it brings them together, no spaces. Now, if I wanted a space, I would add another space in the formula, and now you see it adds a space. So it's really cool if you want to add things together to get a full name. And you can click on here to see the context of the formula. So that's some basic things. Now, data validation, we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. But let's say, for example, here, I want these cells to only be valid numbers. So we would click on data, and then we would add data validation down here. And here's where we can add the rule. And we can say criteria is drop down. So we could add high, medium, low. There's a lot of this. So for example, if we wanted to validate, maybe it's got to be a range. So for example, it has to be between 1 and 3, for example. And then we can add help text. So we can say enter a number between 1 and 3. And here's where we can have some fun. We can either make it a hard rule, where we reject any input that is not between 1 and 3, or we can make a warning where it'll just say, hey, this should be between 1 and 3. Your value is outside of that range. And then we hit done. And then we can come back into data validation, and we can actually remove the rule. So it's kind of cool. You can use that. Now, when I'm working with a team, when I'm collaborating, I really love conditional formatting. So one of the things I might do is go to Format, Conditional Formatting. So based on a custom formula, this is my data range. I'm just being really simple. Cells E2 to G2. And basically, if the value is 1, I might make this green. So if the value is 2, I might make it yellow. And if the value is 3, I might make it red. So basically, I think I broke something. But basically, based on these values, these numbers should determine the color of the cell. And I think what I did, yes, I know what I did. So usually I would do a column. So in my format conditional formatting, so what I would do it's looking at the formula. So if, for example, equals E2 equals 1. Oops. Now I want the 2 to be consistent. So if E, F, or G is 1, you're going to get green. So that's what I did wrong. And so there you can see we've got traffic lights. It makes things very easy to find, everything easy to work around. Now, just like docs, we can click here to share, copy the link and share. So this document is not, this spreadsheet is not shared, but I have the link. So I can copy it into a, I'll just show you this. I can copy it here, and I love this about Google. So I can paste this into a doc, and you'll notice if I tab, it puts the spreadsheet symbol and the name, and now I can just click on that and go to the actual tab. So that's what the copy link does. Now you'll see it's private only to me, just like Google Doc and most other things. You can add specific people so they have access to the document, or you can leave it restricted and only people with access can see it. You can do it within your organization, so anybody in my team can see this document. My least favorite is anyone with the link. Only use that if it's not private and you don't care if somebody sees it. When you do anyone with the link, you've got options. You can make them a viewer so they can only see it. They can't edit it. You can make them a commenter so they can add comments, or you can make them an editor and they can do pretty much whatever you can do. So I use the anyone with the link very, very sparingly. So we'll leave that as restricted. And again, you can use comments. So if you look up here, it's just like in Doc. You've got the timeline, so you can go back to older versions, etc. The version history. You can show comments, and you can see comments on all sheets just for you. Or you can go to the insert menu and insert a comment. So what I normally do is I would insert a comment. Please fill in this row. And hit comment. And what you'll see is the little tab over the top right corner. When you hover, it shows you the comment. You can either click on the comment to respond, or you can click on the check mark to resolve it and hide it. So I've resolved it, hit it. You can see it's gone. Now I can come over here and I can see resolved and I can edit it. So I use comments to coordinate and collaborate. And just like in Google Doc, you can tag somebody with their name and you can assign it to them. So I'd have to reopen. And then I've added a reply. So believe it or not, that's probably the most powerful thing. In the next section, we'll talk about integration with Google Forms. Next, we're going to talk about how to link between sheets, and I'm going to show you a little bit about linked references and automatic updates, as well as the import range and the query. And one of the things I would say is if you're ever stuck using your if you're ever stuck using Google Sheets and you don't know how to do something, open up your favorite AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or something else, and say, I'm working in Google Sheets. I'd like to accomplish this. Can you help me with either the formula, the function, etc.? And I'll show you an example, but if you tell it to give you a detailed step-by-step, it will. So as an example, I came in and I said, I'm working on a tutorial. Can you help me create a detailed step-by-step? And this is what I want to accomplish. And what it did was broke it down into steps. So you can do it with link sheets within the same file or across separate files. And what I'll do is I'll walk you through this. This is getting into the advanced, but it is also critical for integration. So I'll show you a couple of examples and we'll walk through it. So first things first, if you have the same file, so one of the things I'll show you, let me see if I have it. So I have a dashboard, and based on changes in another sheet, it copies over. But let's say I wanted to do something with it. I can go to the source sheet, click the cell or range I want to copy, and then do Control C, and then I can paste it. So for example, I do this a lot. Sorry, I'm trying to find when we actually did this. So as an example, I have a Google form, which I will show you a little bit more. My Google form puts the results into the responses tab. So everybody who fills this in, it will come here and it'll add one row at a time for each respondent. I have an answer key here. So basically it self-scores, and when somebody answers this question and gives this response, it assigns a score of 1. Any other response, they get a score of 0. And then on the scoring sheet, I've pulled in, and this is a little bit more complicated, but basically you can copy and paste from one to the other. In this case, I used array formulas. I'm not going to get into that today because it's pretty advanced. I highly recommend you figure out how to use it. But basically what the array formula does is it pulls the data from my responses worksheet for anything from cell A2 onwards. So it's kind of cool because it pulls in all of these, the formula just copies across. And then based on the detailed document, which I'm hiding because it's not relevant at this moment, let's just say there's a lot of data, but then I just have totals at the end, and based on the total, it gives us a total score, and then it shows how skilled we are with Google. So that's, sorry, I'm backing up here, but basically we can copy and paste. You can also link to other sheets. So for example, if I wanted to link to another sheet, I can use some magic. We're not going to get into it, but basically you can copy and paste from within one sheet into another. Here we're going to use the import range. So basically, let's say I want to import something from here into here, and I will be deleting it because I don't want a lot of it. But basically, if I copy the link and then come over here and I put import range, So basically, the formula should have import range and then the sheet. So I may or may not have that. Let's just see if it works. Now, I don't have that sheet. Where was I trying to import? Okay, so let's go with sheet 1, A through B, A1 through B12. A1 through B12. Okay, what's going on here? Oh, sorry. Okay, so the key is we want this part of the file name. So we'll delete all, oops, sorry. We'll delete all of this before, and we'll delete this stuff afterwards. And we'll hit enter. Oh, what did I miss? Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so whenever I get stuck, I say for the import range, here is the full URL for the sharing of my source sheet. And my data range is on sheet 1 from A1 to B12. What would my formula look like? So if I'm ever stuck, I just ask, in this case, ChatGPT to fix it. And let's just see what that does. All right. Okay, so let's just put it here. And you'll see this is magical. It pulled in the data that I wanted. So maybe I changed my mind and I want, let's go a little further. So basically I can link across. So basically, oh, what I was missing was the quotations on the document ID. Everything else was correct. I'm going to delete this because I don't really need it. Now let's step half a step back. This is my Google Workspace Fluency Diagnostic. By the way, when you name things, say it out loud a few times, see how it rolls off the tongue. When somebody completes this, this is the actual form. So this is where I edited and created the form. And what I did was, once I put all my questions in, I go to the responses, and yes, I will do a video on this. If you click View in Sheets, it will open up, and this is where my responses go. So it's really cool because what I can do now is, as a business, and you can use this for employee onboarding, client onboarding, for surveys, etc. I can gather this data. I can put in my assessment criteria, the scoring of it, and then I can create a formula. So this will automatically create a total and a label. And I can then use something called Google Apps script to, and we'll have separate videos on that. But basically, it sends somebody an email. So when you fill out this form, you will get an email with my overview document. And basically, it tells you your score on these areas. And then it comes into the spreadsheet and it updates this column ED and says, yes, the email was sent. So if I delete that yes, it will resend the next time I run my script. So I've got this all set up. I will not show you this here because this is pretty advanced stuff. But basically, when somebody completes a form, they get an email with the details. And that's actually pretty powerful because you can analyze, you can create dashboards, you can create metrics and things like that. And you can see the responses. If you look here, I can see the responses that have come in and I can see them analyzed against each other. And I can also, so this is the summary. I can see the answers by question, and I can pick the question that I want to see the answer to, or I can see it by the individual. In this case, I just created this, so I'm the only one who completed it. But you will see this is how I responded. So it is really powerful. You can look at the data. You can see here, you can see the color coding of the 4 options. I answered, and there it's color coded as per my answer. So it's really cool. You can then copy your chart and share it with people. This is really powerful if you're doing surveys or assessments, or even something as mundane as trying to order lunch. You can aggregate and get a menu. You can have a menu and say, pick option A, option B, option C. Everybody will then get that. So that's some really cool stuff. We're going to get into more details. I will show you a little bit deeper how to integrate across the board. But for now, this is the basics that you need to understand about how to use Google Sheet.